Hey Geeks, Mod Tim here with today's Star Trek movie. It is Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Kind of an infamous movie. Um, uh, if we go by the laws of like the even movies are the good ones and the odd movies are the bad ones, like this movie did get a lot of negative publicity. Like a lot of people really did not like this movie. I kind of liked it, but only for like specific parts and lines in it. Um, so it was when I was doing the original series, I was doing them in production order. And as of this movie, I guess you could say that it's not production order anymore. It is now chronological order. Because this movie came out in 1989, which at this point, The Next Generation was in like right about the middle of season two. So it's kind of interesting that you have some audience members watching The Next Generation, but you still have the original crew making movies. So I kind of think that's interesting. This movie is also directed by William Shatner, which is part of the reason that this movie gets a lot of flack. Now, at this point, he had directed other stuff. I think this is his first major movie, but he had directed like 10 episodes of TJ Hooker. So whether that makes him accomplished or not, I don't know. But he was experienced, I guess you could say. So overall, this movie's kind of interesting. It introduces Spock's half-brother Sybok, which that alone, it's kind of like, I don't know why that was necessary, but they felt the need to do that. And I mean, they're doing the same thing now with Discovery, and he has an adopted sister, so it's just kind of weird. David Warner makes his first appearance. And so he's normally known as a villainous type character. Like in Titanic, he kind of plays a dick. He was the villain in Tron. After this, in the next movie, he plays a Klingon, so that's kind of interesting. But what I like is, so in the original series and Deep Space Nine, Michael and Sarah plays a Klingon. And for me, he's best known as the voice of Mr. Freeze in the Batman animated series, where David Warner, who is in this movie as a human and then in the next movie as a Klingon, plays Ra's al Ghul in the animated series. So now we've seen two different characters that go on to be in that show. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but this movie has two Star Wars references in it, where Scotty says that he could get out and push the Enterprise. And then it's also Scotty where he's trying to be like kind of hiding in a secret, and he's running and he hits his head on the like just a piece of metal hanging down, which is kind of a reference to like the stormtrooper that hits his head. I don't know if those are two like supposed to be little jokes at Star Wars or just me reading too much into it. This movie, it's very sad. It has a lot of weight to it. Kind of like I said yesterday, how like the fourth movie's really funny and really light and fluffy, whereas this movie is not. It's pretty dark, just like the movie after this one, The Undiscovered Country, where like you have Kirk talking about how he knows he'll die alone, and that's actually a little like he does, to be honest, which is kind of a spoiler for later, but yeah. So you got that. But overall, it is kind of interesting. It's a good movie. So like I said with the fourth movie, The Voyage Home, I grew up in San Francisco and Alameda and stuff. And in this movie, they have a little bit of scenes in Yosemite and El Capitan. And I remember going there, and I've hung out, and I've actually stood, well, not like, I didn't climb the mountain, obviously, but like I've stood and I looked up in that scene where like supposedly Spock was flying and stuff. So again, this movie has a lot of nostalgia for me just because I know this area really, really well. This also has one of my most hated not Star Trek, but like sci-fi cliches where everybody fucking knows Morse code, and I will never understand it. Where like Scotty starts banging on the pipes and everybody understands him. Like nobody I know knows Morse code. Like even military people that I know. So it's just kind of weird that like every sci-fi has to have that little trope in it where everybody knows Morse code. And then it's another kind of stupid joke where, so as Sybok, evidently they wanted to get Sean Connery to play the role, but either he didn't want to do it or he couldn't do it, but he didn't. And so they replaced him, and so this whole movie, it's very similar to like the hippie episode of the original series. They're looking for Eden, but the Vulcan Eden is called Shakari, which is Sean Connery. So, which, I mean, depending on who you ask, Sean Connery is Eden, so take that for what you will. I think this movie, the reason I enjoy it so much, and I feel like most people do, is because of William Shatner's line, "What does God need with a starship?" It's just so perfect. Like, even if you absolutely hate this movie, like, I always felt like that line was so good, just because of how obscenely insane it is. And then the follow-up of, like, who is this being? And don't you know? Aren't you God? Like, it's just great. This movie's super cheesy, and it's not supposed to be, which is why it gets so much hate. So all of that being said, tomorrow I will be doing Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, live at 10 p.m. Pacific time, where I'm located. And then probably as a follow-up, because that is the last movie of the original series, I'm just going to kind of hang out with you guys and talk, chat. I love the interactions we have, and kind of a looking back from where we've been to looking forward to the next generation. See what I did there? But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for commenting. And I will see you guys tomorrow, 10 p.m. live.